so cool. That's the bloody charges. I can't read goat body language.
Greetings, my fellow crafters and creatives. Thank you for joining me here for episode 51 of Bobolog. My name is Bobby Olan, and this is my vlog where I share all of my, mainly knitting, but all of my crafty endeavors with you. And I so appreciate you coming to join me and spend some time with me today. This video, housekeeping first, little bit out of it today. All of the links for anything that I mention and discuss will be in the YouTube description down below. If there is anything that I have missed that you would like to know about, let me know and I will fix that. What other housekeeping? You can find me on Instagram, Ravelry, Discord, under my name, Bobby Olan. And I think that's pretty much it to get started. In this video, I have a couple of knit-alongs to share with you, a couple of finished objects, a couple of works in progress, a multi-crafty, and I think that's possibly it. But first, just a few random updates and life notes and what have you here and there. I have been feeling like a bit under the weather the last few days, and I am still not feeling 100%. So yeah, if I seem a bit slow or anything, then that is why, and thank you for bearing with me. I have show notes, but I didn't do show notes for this first rambly bit because I thought I knew what I was going to say. What else did I want to say? This is the first video where I am filming on my brand new camera, which is the Insta360 Go Ultra. So hopefully it has better quality that is visible for you guys. I hope it's all nice and clear. It has a much wider, bigger field of view. So you can see a lot more, and I even have it a lot closer to me than where I had positioned my phone when I was filming with my phone. So that's a bit interesting. One thing that I have to try to remember is that this camera has a fixed focal length. So I can't like put something in front of you. That was rude. That felt rude of me. I should hold something up as an example. I can't hold something close to the camera in the hopes that it will focus well, because it really just wants to focus on things about this distance away. So I will try to remember that. And it can film up to 4K, but I am filming it in 2.7 because I think 4K is quite unnecessary for the types of videos I'm doing. And I'm hoping that 2.7K will just give me a really good amount of clarity and just a little bit enough extra sharpness or whatever you call it, so that if I do need to zoom into something to show you a detail, because I'm showing you things here instead of right up close, then I can do that without any great loss of quality. Anyway, you probably didn't really need to know all that. The last thing I think that I wanted to mention before I get started was just a little update on this that I am wearing. This is the One Love Shawl by Joji Locatelli in a special edition yarn from Ash and Eve. It is, I believe, their posh sock yarn, but it was a special dye thing. I really don't have my words today. I I got this from 1121 Windmills, who was doing a special birthday set thing based on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So this skein, it's not a skein anymore, it's a finished object. This yarn colorway was called Mostly Harmless. Anyway, when I presented this a couple of episodes, I said that I wasn't completely happy with it, and that is still true. I love how it feels around my neck, because the yarn is beautiful and I love the colors. I sort of just wanted to touch on that again about why I don't exactly love this project. And I've been thinking about it a little bit because I have been wearing it a lot because, like I said, it feels so good around my neck. Usually I just wrap it around a couple of times and try to hide the ends. This is the first time I'm wearing it this way, where I've tied a knot in one side and then the other side I've just pulled it through. But I really think the main reason that I don't love this is because, well, for one thing, I didn't use a stretchy enough bind off, which I talked about, so I couldn't block it into like the nice shape that I wanted. But I do think it is mainly that when I wear it, you can't see any of the beautiful lace details of the pattern. So it's like I put all of this effort into, making this beautiful design, and you just, you don't see it. And that's kind of a bummer. I keep like tossing up whether or not I want to frog this, but because it does feel so lovely on, my current thinking is that I will just leave it. And if I come across a project that I feel like this yarn would really suit, then I may frog it then. But really, like, it is nice and it is lovely to wear. So while I am wearing it and while it doesn't immediately want to become anything else, there's no point frogging it, really. And I may never get to that point. So yeah, I sort of just wanted to touch on that. Okay, so let's get into my segments. I have my show notes down here on my iPad, which is why I keep looking in that direction. The first segment that I want to get into today is Craft with Friends, part 1. I'm going to have 2 Craft with Friends segments in this video. And in this first lot, I am going to be just touching briefly on the make along, not knit along, because you can crochet in it as well, that I am going to be hosting. It's the first make along that I am running myself, and I should tell you what it is before I ramble on about it, in case this is the first time you're watching. I'm calling it the Garter and Granny Along. I really should call it the Garter or Granny Along, but it would be pretty cool if any of you out there did a project that incorporated both garter stitch and the granny stitch. But yes, basically this is a knit along that I am running from the 1st of July until the 31st of December this year, which is 2026, in case you're watching this in the future, like I seem to watch everyone. Anyway, yeah, so it just has to incorporate garter stitch or granny stitch. And if you want to share your projects on Instagram, then please use the hashtag GG Makealong. Let me just double check. Yes, GG, the letters GG Makealong, so that I can see what you are doing there. And I don't think I mentioned before, but swatching is allowed before the start date. And yeah, projects should just begin on or after the 1st of July. I know that there are a couple of people who will be joining in along with this, and I'm so grateful for you guys, and I'm so excited to see what you will be making. I know that one person, Loz, who is actually the person who prompted me to start this make along, is going to be doing the optic blanket with me, and they are currently on holiday in Japan and messaged me a few days ago saying that they found some beautiful Noro yarn that they plan to use to make the optic blanket, and they'll be pairing it with some black yarn. So I'm really excited to see that. And oh gosh, I should have looked at the other person who commented on my video. I feel so bad. Was that Sue Ann? Was that you? And you're going to be doing a crochet granny square blanket, which also looked lovely. And I'm excited that of the two people that I know of who are doing this with me so far that I'm aware of, that one is doing granny stitch and one is doing garter stitch. So that's really fun. I feel really bad. I'm just going to double check name. It was Sue Ann. I'm glad I got your name right, Sue Ann. And you're planning to make the Sunny Day Granny Square blanket, which I'm looking forward to seeing. I was hoping that if you wanted to share a little bit more directly and didn't want to just put your projects up on Instagram, that you could post things to my YouTube community page. But I feel like that doesn't actually work in the way that I had thought that it works. I had hoped that any of you would be able to just make a post, but it may actually be that you can only respond to my posts, kind of like just like commenting on a video. So it kind of confuses me. I just don't understand how the YouTube community feature works. I don't know. I think if you go on go to view my channel on YouTube, one of the subheadings at the top is page, and that's where you access the community thing. And I couldn't see anything on there when I had a look just now about making a post, but I had seen that someone had actually commented on my post inviting people to share things. Jenny, I'm so sorry, because I didn't actually get any kind of notification that you had commented on that, which just doesn't make sense to me, because I get notifications when I get comments on my videos. So why wouldn't YouTube tell me that people have made comments there? I find it really confusing. I'm so sorry, Jenny, and I will reply now that I know that you have commented there. I feel so bad, but yeah, my brain's not really working. You can try posting there if you want, but it seems like Instagram is going to be the best place. Anyway, this was meant to be a quick segment because all I really wanted to say here was that in my previous episode, I talked about wanting to do the hex scrap Afghan if I did get around to doing a granny stitch project for this knit along, craft along, make along. Oh my goodness, for this make along that I'm doing. I realized that the hex scrap Afghan doesn't actually use granny stitch. I thought that it had because it's tagged with granny stitch, but when I looked at it more closely after my last video, it's actually just a whole bunch of double crochets. It's not clusters of stitches, which is what I understand a granny stitch to be. So I had a bit more of a dig around Ravelry, and I have settled on the Floral Hexagon Afghan, which is a free pattern by Lion Brand Yarn. So yeah, if I get around to doing a granny stitch project for this make along, then that is the project I will be doing. That took way too long. I should learn how to use the pause function on recording this. You don't need to know that. Anyway, let's move on to handy dandy FOs. And I have two projects to share with you. The first is the big one, which is Plover here. And I have finished it. I actually just finished sewing on the buttons yesterday. So that is it there. I did manage to get it to a pretty good length, I think. which was just dictated by how many balls of yarn I had bought. And I bought it from a shop that was at the time closing down. They decided not to anymore. They've just shrunk. But I bought all that they had left of this particular colorway of the alpaca yarns Sporty. So I bought all that they had left, and it just turned out to be the perfect amount to get this cardigan to the length that I wanted it to be. You can kind of see how loose the stitch is there. You can see through it. It's pretty airy. And it's actually, the pattern is by Jacqueline C. Slack. If you look on Ravelry, it's saying it's by Jack Studio. And it was written for fingering weight yarn. I think I've said all this before. It was written for fingering weight yarn, but there's a link on the pattern page talking about how you can easily substitute sport weight or DK weight yarn. Just expect these certain changes or differences from the resulting fabric that you get from it. Anyway, I kind of do that with my projects anyway. I don't always use the specified yarn or yarn weight. Anyway, that's it there. So I did mine in a sport weight yarn, and I don't think I've said this before either. The Plover, this is Plover. Did I even say that? I'm making the version from Making Magazine, the Simple Edition, which is a cropped version of this cardigan. You can get it as an individual pattern now, which has the cropped version and also a full length option. And I just kept going, like I said, until I ran out of yarn because I wanted it to be long. This pattern is available in 9 sizes, from 101.5 centimeters to 183 centimeter bust circumference. It is meant to be a positive ease cardigan. And in my previous episode, I had talked about how I was thinking about whether I ought to do a little bit of hip shaping. Then I realized that because it's an oversized cardigan and it's not form-fitting, or it's even, it's oversized. So I was like, oh, you know what? There's probably actually no point doing any hip shaping because it's like a big shapeless, essentially, garment. So hip shaping isn't really going to do anything for it. So I didn't do that, and I just kept going down to get the length that I wanted. It is knit in a half brioche stitch, and the way that the band around it is done is that it's all one big giant band. So the hem, the button band, and the neckline, the collar, you pick up all of the stitches for that, and you're knitting in one big giant round. And I was pretty pleased to find that in my previous episode, I talked about all of these calculations that I did to try to determine how many stitches that band would be for me, and therefore how much yarn do I need to set aside to use for it. And I was pretty pleased to find that I was less than 20 stitches off in my calculation at the end of the day. So yeah, pretty happy with that. I ended up with 39 grams remaining of yarn, which I don't think I brought here with me. You don't really need to see the ball of yarn anyway. And I definitely could have knit this a bit longer, but I knit it until I had one ball left, actually one ball plus the leftovers for each ball that I used for the sleeves, if that makes sense. Because I just wanted to give myself that buffer in case my calculations were completely off, which it turns out they weren't, which is great. But also just in case the recipient wants longer sleeves or something like that, then I still have enough yarn to make those kinds of adjustments if they want. What else did I want to say? Oh, gosh, I made a note here that I have 39 grams left, but I didn't actually make a note of how many grams this actually ended up being. Let me just check that for you. Plover. I always think that I'm so prepared, and then there's always something that, or more than one something that I need to look up. So it looks like I used 430 grams to knit this long version, which was just a little over 8.5 skeins and 1,287 meters. Yep. Okay. That's that. Oh, what else did I want to say? Oh, yes, the buttons. So because I did end up doing buttons all the way down, as you can see, I went with the grey buttons that I showed previously. And I originally stitched one of these on with a brown thread that matched the yarn, but I didn't like how that looked, so I ended up sewing it on with a grey thread, which I think looks much better. One thing that I wasn't sure about was whether I wanted to do the thing where you attach a ribbon to the inside of the band to help reinforce and stabilize the button band. And while I really feel like this could have benefited from that, because even the band is such a loose gauge and so airy, I didn't like that the button band would be visible through the fabric. So I just stitched the buttons on directly without any reinforcing, and hopefully that'll be fine. If I were to knit this again, I would want to knit the whole thing at a tighter gauge, not a tight gauge, but this is just such a loose fabric, which makes it beautifully drapey, but I feel like I personally wouldn't want something this airy. I don't know. But even if I were to stick to the pattern gauge, I feel like I would want to knit the band and the cuffs at a tighter gauge for sure, like a much tighter gauge, and just pick up a whole lot of extra stitches just to make that denser and feel more stable, and then also just be more of a solid fabric that I feel like I could more easily attach a ribbon to if I wanted even more reinforcement. The other thing that I wanted to say is, oh yes, I didn't do the buttonholes as they're written in the pattern, because they're just eyelet buttonholes, and I really did not like how they looked in this loose of a gauge. When I did my swatches, I had actually tested out a bit of stockinette stitch with the buttonhole in it, so I knew before I got to the band that I wanted to find an alternative. And I found something called the reinforced eyelet buttonhole, which I will link in the show notes below, because I, again, didn't make note of who made that video, but it is excellent. Usually an eyelet buttonhole is done by making a yarn over and then a knit two together. And the reinforced eyelet buttonhole is excellent because, well, reinforced, you can't go wrong with that. But also, instead of having a knit two together where one column of knits disappears, the way that it's done is the buttonhole is done in between two columns of knit stitches, so none of the knit columns are unbroken, if that makes any sense. If it doesn't, just go and watch the video, because it's really excellent, and I think it looks great and works really well. And you know, like I keep saying, I would have liked to reinforce this by other means, and even if I could have, I would still have done this reinforced buttonhole, but any kind of reinforcement I think is a good thing. I think that's all that I had to say about that one. Sorry if that was really scattered. I thought that I was on the mend yesterday, but last night was just so cold that I feel like it just had a negative effect, and I woke up with a terrible, with sinus pain and a sinus headache this morning, which isn't a fun way to wake up. Moving on to the second finished object, much smaller and much quicker project to discuss here. It is this ribbed toque 120 by Michelle Porter, which I have made many of this year and some of which I have shared previously. This is in the Shuffle Vol Zauberball Crazy yarn, which I just love how these yarns work up with all of these like beautiful, beautiful color changes that they have. Last time I showed this to you, I was up to this bright blue band near the top here. Yes, so I finished that, super happy with it. I knit this one to 100 rows, and I believe this is the one where I'd started off knitting it in magic loop on a long circular needle, and then partway through I just went ahead and bought like a 40 centimeter circular needle and did the rest of it on that, which was made such a difference. What did I want to say about this? Oh yes, I have I've done this with Tilly Buddy's Very Stretchy cast on, which is one of my favorite ever cast ons. It makes a really nice tubular sort of edge. Not the most, like, not, how do I say this? So tubular bind-offs and tubular cast-ons and bind-offs are meant to look like the fabric sort of just rolls over. So this doesn't exactly do that, in the sense that if you follow a knit column to the edge, it doesn't look like the knit column just like, you know, wraps over the edge and just keeps going. There is, like, it does look different, but it doesn't look like there's a line there, if that makes sense. And I love this cast on. It's so easy to do. It doesn't require a long tail, which means that you're not using any more yarn than you absolutely have to. There aren't any setup rows required for it. It is wonderfully stretchy, as you can see here. And I just think it looks good. Yeah, so I use that. That's probably my most used cast on. So my only change from the pattern for this was to adjust the rate of decreases, which I've talked about before. In the pattern, it's a decrease row and a rest row all the way to the very tippy top of the crown. And following other people's notes on their projects, partway through, I just started omitting the rest rows so that it wasn't such a steep, pointy shape, and it kind of did more like that, which gives it a little bit of a rounder edge. Should I put this on and show you? I'm always so amused by, like, when I put it on that way. I guess if you want to wear it slouchy, you wouldn't just, like, if you were wearing it folded up, or if I'm wearing it folded with a folded brim, I really want it to come down over my forehead like that. But if I want to wear it slouchy, I wouldn't do that, because then it does that. I would sort of sit it further back in my head, on my head, and then it sits nicer. It actually, like, slouches. I've never really worn a beanie this way. It feels like it's going to fall off. Maybe it's my big hair. My big, wild, messy hair. I guess you could also still fold the brim and wear it slouchy, and that looks a bit more secure. Really happy with that. Yeah, so that was all that I had to say about that. No, it's not. This is in the colorway 2623. For, like, the first word is just FR. So I don't know if that's an abbreviation for something. For Hafster, It means early bird. I'm just going to jump straight into handy dandy whips, because the first whip that I want to share is stop looking at myself, is another project which is pretty much exactly the same. So it's another ribbed Toque 120 in the crazy yarn, in a different colorway. This colorway is 2692 Gegenlicht, which means against the light or backlight to my understanding. Another absolutely beautiful colorway. I'm holding it upside down. Yeah. I wasn't sure about this this colorway when I bought it, because I thought it's not exactly my kind of colors, but it's not for me, so that doesn't matter. And I picked it based on what I thought the recipient would like. But knitting it up, I actually really like it, and look how well it goes with the jumper I'm wearing. But I always just gravitate towards like the blues and the greens. I mean, clearly not because I knit this. But yeah, it's beautiful as all of their colorways are, just with all of the shifts there. So I am up to the point on this one now where I have to do the crown decreases, and I've knit it in exactly the same way. One interesting thing is, well, this hasn't been blocked yet, but when I got to the 100 rows on this one, it was measuring 23.5 centimeters. When I got to 100 rows on this one and I measured it, it's actually measuring 25 centimeters. So I'm wondering if that means my gauge loosened up when I switched to using just a 40 centimeter circular needle, knitting in the round instead of doing magic loop. It's the exact same brand. It's Leica needles, same size. So yeah, it was just interesting to see how much it had changed. I probably didn't need to do a full 100 rows for this one, but also why not let it be slouchier? I've really, for all of these beanies that I've made, I've really liked using this method of marking my rows, like just using a spare bit of yarn to sort of like mark every 10 rows instead of attaching stitch markers or project markers, which can get a bit dangly and in your way sometimes. Well, especially if you're using a really dangly row counter like I'm using here, but I absolutely love getting tangled in there. I think this is like the 5th one of these that I have done this year, and I'm making so many all in this crazy yarn because this is like a batch of gifts that are sort of going to a group of people, and I've sort of just wanted to make them all similar things. I said a couple of episodes ago that I feel like I always want one of these on the needles, and while I'm still enjoying it most of the time, I'm starting to get over it. So thankfully, after this one is done, I just have one more to do. Yeah, at the end of last week, I think I was only like up to here on it, but then I got unwell and I just wanted mindlessness. So this was a really great project for that. Is there anything else I wanted to say about that? Oh yeah, no, the only thing is, so when I did this one, I followed the decreases as per the pattern, omitting the rest rows like I said. And the way that they do it in the pattern is, hopefully you'll be able to see, but you can't, when you're looking at the crown, you can't really see you can't really see the decreases. It kind of just looks like it all just like shrinks and comes together to a point. For this one, I want to do the more traditional, in my mind, way of doing decreases where you divide it by 8 and you just do knit togethers, which sort of creates like a spiraling effect. I guess when this is done, I can show you for a comparison if you don't get what I mean, but hopefully that's clear. Yes, okay. And then the second whip that I have to share is another beanie. This one here is the Antler Toque by Tin Can Knits, which is a free pattern. That one is the Rib Toque 120 is also a free pattern. But this one by Tin Can Knits is using a worsted weight yarn as opposed to a fingering weight yarn. And this is another gift. And I am also at the point where I'm up to doing the decreases on it. And it's not for, I just said it's a gift. Of course, it's not for me. I think most of the projects I've seen, people are wearing it with a folded brim, but the recipient obviously can decide how they want to wear it. I am knitting this one in Cascade 220 Superwash. I would have preferred, oh my God, my hair. Oh goodness, stop. I would have preferred to use the non-superwash version of this yarn, but when I went to my LYS, they didn't have this particular color in the non-superwash version, and I couldn't be bothered waiting, to be honest. I just wanted to make a start. Yeah, really happy with how that one is. Let me just wake up my notes. I'm really happy with how that one is coming together. I did decide I really should refer to my notes more often, because I keep seeing things that I forget to mention and keep having to jump back, which I'm sure is so annoying for you guys and really hard to follow. The Rib Toque 120 is a one-size-fits-all beanie because it is all rib and it's so incredibly stretchy. This Antler Toque, while stretchy, comes in a big range of sizes. It is available from baby to a large adult. So there are 4 sizes. I think it's like baby, child, small, medium adult, and large adult. So I'm following the directions for the large adult size, and I didn't do a gauge swatch before I did this. Did I? No, I didn't. I just assumed that my gauge would be tight, and I went up 2 needle sizes, I think. What am I using here? I am using, that's right. I have a feeling the pattern called for using 4.5 mil needles for the body and 4 mil for the brim. I did 5 mil for the brim, and I decided after my last video when I talked about different knitting styles and how the only one that I'd sort of heard of and hadn't tried was Portuguese knitting, I decided, you know what, I should just go ahead and try it. So I decided to do this beanie in the Portuguese knitting style. And yeah, so after I did the cast on and started knitting, I started doing the Portuguese method, but because this is ribbing and I kept having to switch back and forth between knits and purls in a style that I wasn't familiar with, I found that really difficult to do. And I felt like my gauge was really, really loose. So I did the brim in continental. And then once I got to the body of the beanie, I went back to doing the Portuguese style. And because when I had done it in the rib, I felt like my gauge was really loose, instead of sizing up to the 5.5 millimeter needles, which is what I had intended to do, I decided to just stick with 5 mil and hope that I was right and it was looser enough than the continental knit brim that I didn't need to change needle size. And I think it's working out well. I have to say that the first few rows of doing the Portuguese knitting style I found so difficult, and I nearly completely gave up on it because I just couldn't get the hang of it. But after knitting this much, I feel like I can get into a pretty comfortable rhythm with it, actually. And the way that I have done it is I've seen a lot of people do this deal where, you know, they string the yarn around their neck. But I have also seen people use like necklaces or pins that will hold the yarn and tension the yarn so that it's not wrapping around their neck. I think part of the reason I hadn't tried this style is because I don't love having, I get a lot of neck pain. So as much as possible, I try to avoid having like heavy things on my neck or anything that's on my neck that I feel like is going to strain it. And like, it's just yarn, but I still just felt like I didn't want to be tensioning the yarn around my neck because that might just be pulling my neck forward enough that it wouldn't be good for it. So I've just used one of these light bulb stitch markers, and I just pinned that to the front of whatever I'm wearing and go for it. The thing about that method though is it is a bit annoying that like whenever I get up, I have to like detach myself from my knitting. So if it was just around my neck, that would be easy. I just, you know, take it off. But because it's pinned to me, I have to like unpin it, and then I always like pin the pin to my beginning of round marker here just so that it doesn't so that it stays with my knitting and doesn't fall all the way down to the ball of yarn, and I have to like slide it up, which isn't that big a deal, but still the little things that make things a bit smoother for you. Why not? I think that's all that I had to say about that one. Next up is eyes and ears, and in this episode I wanted to mention Danny of Little Bobbins Knits, Little Bobbins Knits, who is so sweet and so thoughtful and so kind. Kind actually is a word that she uses a lot. She talks a lot about how, you know, people she meets are kind, about how her viewers are kind, just people being kind. And I don't know, it's just really nice to hear that that's sort of like how she views the world. And it's just such a nice thing to be focusing on. I feel like I can't explain very well what I mean, but I don't know. I just find it very sweet. Yeah, and she's so kind, obviously, of course. And so, you know, the people she surrounds herself with are kind, and kindness is obviously something that's very important to her. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. I also love how she talks to her dog, who is called Bobbin. And sometimes she calls him Bob, which is obviously my name. But yeah, it's just really adorable. She talks to her dog, like the way that she talks to her dog. It's kind of just interspersed throughout her conversations with the viewers. Like she'll just pepper in like comments to her dog, and it's really really sweet and really adorable. And I have to say that I've explained before how I watch videos. I feel like I have to watch from the very beginning if I possibly can. So I am still on videos from 2016. And usually when I start watching someone new, when I look at their channel, I check first to make sure that they're still active, because I kind of like, I'm not as interested in watching people if I know that they have stopped and I can't continue to keep up with them. And I didn't do that with her channel for some reason, but I looked just before and she hadn't actually done a video in about a year. So hopefully she's just on a bit of a hiatus and she comes back before I catch up, because I am 10 years in the past. And I did see on a recent Instagram post from her that she had a post with a cat, and it did make me wonder if that was her cat or not. But I guess if I'm watching videos from 10 years ago, and I don't know how old Bobbins, her dog Bobbin, was in those videos, but I'm sure that dogs, I feel like I should bring this up because it's sad to think about her dog not being with her anymore, but I feel like that must surely be the case, or else Bobbin is going to be quite old in the current time in 2026. Anyway, she's done a few videos with her mum, which I think is also really sweet. And I love hearing, like, her mum is more of a quilter than a knitter. So it's nice getting that insight into a whole other crafty world that I would like to dabble in more. But like Danny says, she just loves knitting so much that all of the other crafts that she wants to do often take a back seat. But she does, share her spinning and some of her like the little bits of stitching and what have you that she does. She had a shop where she made beautiful project bags where she had like appliqued like socks on a line and things like that. And they're so gorgeous. I would love one, but I haven't looked up to see if she's actually still doing that. For some reason, I have it in my head that I need to catch up to the current day before I go and see if she is still making project bags before I get my hands on one. I don't know why. That's just how my brain works. But I really enjoy watching her. So if you haven't heard of her, which I'm sure that you have because she's been around for so long and has a big following, which doesn't surprise me in the least, then go check her out, Little Bobbins Knits. Okay, what is next? Next up is Multi-Crafty, and I just sort of wanted to share an update on where I am with the big fleece spinning project that I have been working on for years. I bought this fleece in, I don't know, like in the early 2020s. And it's just such, fleeces are big. And it's become such an epic project for me. I feel like every year when it gets up towards the Tour de Fleece, I think I'm going to finish it this year. I'm going to finish spinning this fleece. And I never do. And hopefully this year I will. I feel like one thing that keeps sort of holding me back is my preparation. I have washed all of the fleece, not very well. It is partially felted and there is still a lot of grease in places because I didn't do a good job of it. And that makes it not very pleasant to prep at all. I'm sure it would all be going a lot smoother if I had something like a drum carder, but all I have is a flick card, a flicker. I'm just gonna call it a flicker, which I got when I did the beginner's spinning course at my local guild. Not really local to me anymore. They were never really local to me, but they're the guild in Victoria. Anyway, so I've been flicking it lock by lock. And I find that part of the process really like tedious, and it can be hard on my hands, especially when I'm flicking locks that are still quite sticky. The ones that have no grease in them flick so easily and they're so great. But then I get to the greasy ones and it's just like you're just yanking it through, which isn't fun. Anyway, this is the latest bobbin that I have spun, so the latest single. I think it is my 4th single. Oh my god, I still have so much more to do. And I think this is all the fleece that I have left in this bag here. And I'm not really like paying attention at all to whether, like, I'm not trying to keep all of the lighter bits together and all of the darker bits together. I'm just sort of grabbing what I grab. Oh, it smells so sheepy. I do love that smell. So that it's all kind of like random and mixed up when I spin it. And I am spinning this long draw, and my intention is to then ply them all into 3-ply, a 3-ply yarn. So ideally I would like to spin all of the singles before I ply them together, so that I can do the thing where you're matching some of your first singles with some of your later spindles, because especially over the span of time that it's taking me to spin all of this, I'm sure that like how I'm spinning has changed a lot. So mixing and matching the singles like that should sort of help make them all as a whole be a little bit more similar. That's the idea. Anyway, but I still have so much to prep. And I decided after I spun this bobbin that instead of flicking a bobbin's worth of fleece and then spinning it and then flicking and then spinning, I decided that I'd probably make more progress if I just flick everything and then do all of the spinning. So I have here a bag of flicked fleece, and then I sort of roll, I like grab like 5 or 6 flicked locks, and then I sort of lay them out and use some knitting needles to roll them into kind of faux lags, and then I spin those long draw. And so this bag is about a single's worth. I am spinning about 70 grams per single because, well, my hope is that I can fit about 200 grams of plied yarn onto one of these bobbins, which is from my electric eel wheel 6. And I think I have 6 of these. And I think ideally I would end up with about a dozen singles to get enough yardage to be able to knit a sweater out of this. That is my end game, my aspirations for this project, but that's where it is at. I have flicked about 5 singles worth, and in here I don't know how much I can get out of that. I feel like I could probably get out like, I don't know, maybe another 4. So if I've spun 4 singles, yeah, if I can get 3 more out of this, it would be great. I think I did some calculations a while ago, and I think if I can get 12 singles and then therefore 4 big 200 gram skeins of 3-ply yarn, then I'm hoping that that's enough to make a sweater. So we shall see. So yes, that is my multi-crafty update. Tour de Fleece is coming up. So I wanted to prep all of the fleece if possible before then, and then just use that time to start spinning. But we shall see how that goes. That's all I had to say. Let's move on, because clearly I can just ramble on and on and on about any of these topics today. So we are on to Craft with Friends Part 2 for this episode. And I am going to be chatting about a knit-along, my favorite knit-along every year to join in, which is not hosted by me. It's hosted by the Yarniacs, and it is the Colours of Fall knit-along, where you just have to make something that uses at least one of the colors from Pantone's fashion trend forecast. And this year they have 3 palettes. Usually they have 4. Usually they have New York spring summer, New York fall winter, London spring summer, London fall winter. But this year for some reason they only have one of the London ones. But there are usually some shared colors between all of the palettes as well. So again, that's the case here, and maybe they just didn't think it was worth it. Who knows? Anyway, I mentioned all of this last time, so I'm not going to talk too much about the knit along. I just sort of wanted to touch on again on one of the projects I mentioned in my previous episode, which is the V-back tee by Jamie Huffman. It is, I think the pattern was originally released in 2018, and then in 2023, they did a sort of refresh of the pattern and added more sizes to it. It's really impressive to me, like the number of sizes that this pattern has. It has 19 sizes because it's only got a little bit of positive ease in it. It's only got about 3 to 4 centimeters of positive ease. So there are a lot more sizes to accommodate for so many different body sizes, because I guess if a pattern has a lot of positive ease, it's a lot more forgiving because there's like, you know, more room to like play around within there. But if you want to make something that's a bit fitted, yeah, you get what I'm trying to say, right? It has 19 sizes, and I had a look, and each size is just like a 5 centimeter difference in circumference, so which is just so incredible to me that it was graded like that minutely. Very impressive. So yeah, the sizes range from a 70 centimeter to a 160 centimeter bust. And there are options for short or long sleeves. I'm intending to make the long sleeve version. That's always what I'd intended to make with this. And I showed you my swatch in this bag. I showed you my swatch in the previous episode, which I had done in the Moda Vera Not Just for Socks yarn. This isn't the colorway that I'm doing it in, but it's in this bag because the Moda Vera Not Just for Socks, which is a discontinued yarn, it has 25% bamboo in it. And after the previous episode where I shared the yarns that I had always been planning to make with this, so that's the Not Just Socks in the colorway that I'm using, and this is the other yarn, which is a Shopper Vol yarn, which doesn't have any bamboo in it. I started having a little bit of a freak out to myself about, I can't blend yarn with that much bamboo in it with yarn that doesn't have any bamboo in it. It's going to behave so differently. It's going to be like, there's going to be parts of the, I'm calling it a sweater because I'm making it long sleeve, although I guess you can have long sleeve tees. Anyway, there's going to be parts of the tee that are going to be warmer than other parts of the tee because bamboo is so like light and breathable. It's more like a cotton. And then I was thinking like, oh, well, where do I need the warmth? Do I need my arms to be warmer? Do I need my body to be warmer? Do I need my upper body to be warmer than my lower body? And I was just going through all of these thoughts, and this is the only other skein that I have of this particular yarn, but I never wanted to use it with it because it has pinks in it, which I don't love. And I didn't want to combine these two, but I was thinking, oh, well, I just have to, because then the fiber content will match. And I was looking on Ravelry, and I had actually contacted one person who has this yarn in a different colorway listed as will trade or sell. And I contacted them a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't heard back. But even then, I was still umming and ahhing about it. And after all that, at the end of the day, I decided that I would stick with the wool. I think what I had originally thought that I'd have to do would be to helically stripe the yarns as a way of like alternating skeins. And I have 2 skeins of the Not Just Socks and 1 skein of the Shopper Vol. So I would have had to do it like, two rounds of the bamboo, 1 round of the wool, 2 rounds of bamboo, 1 round of wool, and helically stripe it that way. But I didn't like that either, because part of the reason that I really wanted to use this yarn to make that was because I was really curious about how a self-striping yarn would work up in this particular pattern, and that was something that I wanted. So if I'm helically striping the yarns, then I'm going to lose that effect. Anyway, after all of that umming and ahhing and second guessing everything about it, I actually looked at the pattern and not just the project page. And I realized that it gives you guidance on how to manage the colors if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 different colors that you want to use in it, which I think is also absolutely brilliant. Like, this pattern just gives you so many options for what you can do. And so what I have decided in the end is that I am going to follow the guidance for using 5 colors, but I'm going to do it like this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. And then that way it is a little bit more evenly distributed, where there's going to be bamboo, where it's just going to be wool, without the mess of helically striping everything and losing the effect that I wanted. So yeah, so I'm now that it's all going to be blue again, I am not stressing, and I am very much looking forward to it. And the only other thing that I think I wanted to say is, so this is the swatch that I showed last time. This weird shaped swatch-tastic swatch here. The only thing that I sort of wanted to mention about it that I forgot to last time is that I was really disappointed that in this small amount of knitting, I came across 4 knots. So that wasn't great. Hopefully, you know, the whole 2 balls of yarn isn't going to be like that and have that many breaks in it. But I don't know. It was a spotlight yarn and it doesn't exist anymore. So what can you do about it? I still really want the finished object, and I'm still going to use that yarn. Was that everything? Yes, okay, I think that's enough on that. I want to end as usual with Heartful of Craft, but I have a little bit, this is going to be a bit of a bigger Heartful of Craft section than it normally is, because I have a bit of background to get into with it. I didn't bring the project bag. No, because I don't have the project bag. This is sort of like following on from my Colours of Fall chat. So last episode I had discussed this project that I want to do for Colours of Fall Knit Along, and another project as well, which was the Early Morning Sweater by Yuko Shimizu. I mentioned that that one's not a size inclusive pattern. It's only available in 3 sizes, ranging from 100 to 126 centimeter bust circumference. So it's not size inclusive. It is a free pattern, and I did read, I actually for the first time went and read through like a lot of the project notes that people had put in it, and apparently there are a lot of errors or things that don't make sense, but a couple of people still said it was worth sort of like figuring out and pushing through it, because the finished object is worth it. So that's promising, but I'm looking forward to the finished object, but I'm not as much looking forward to the knitting of it. Anyway, that's not what my Heartful of Craft is exactly. That one I am knitting out of all the remaining leftovers I have for my stash of Bendigo woolen mills in their classic 8-ply yarn. And my plan was to knit the body in the raffia color, which is what I did the swatches in that I showed you previously. And then I wanted to do the hem, cuffs, and the neckline in all of the other colors I have of that yarn. So I was getting really excited on the weekend about the Colours of Fall knit along starting. It actually started yesterday, which was the winter solstice. So the day before yesterday, I started putting together the project bag, and I just had one big 200 gram ball of the raffia color, and then some leftovers. And I was just thinking, this isn't right. There should be more. If Ravelry is telling me that I have just over 1,000 meters left. There needs to be more than this. So I actually weighed it and did the calculations, and I actually only have less than 600 meters left. And I'm certain that I put all of that yarn in the same case. I am certain that I shouldn't have any more of it elsewhere. So either when I first logged it, I logged the wrong amount, and I should have only logged that I'd bought 4 skeins, not 5 skeins, or the pattern, the project that I had made with it was a Greenwich sweater by Martin Story, which was possibly actually the very first project I ever shared when I started these vlogs. And I knit that for my sister, but after I finished it and gifted it to her, she wanted the front of it to be longer. And I'm not sure now if I updated the project to say how much extra yarn that used up. So on that project, it says that I used, I don't know, 450 grams or something like that. So I don't know if that 450 grams was just the original sweater, or if it's was the final finished lengthened thing of the sweater. Anyway, I have like a little over 1 ball missing. So I was pretty like crushed when I put all of that together and realized I don't actually have had to make this early morning jumper. Yeah, I had a quick look through what else in my stash was like a similar colorway that I could put in, but I really wanted this to just be a project using just that yarn and using all of it that I had left. And I, for the size that I had planned to make, which was the medium, it needed 1,500 meters, and I would have only had just under 1,100 meters. So I'm just short of it. Like I would have had just enough to make that size. So I was really bummed out, and I put this bag together instead, and I've decided that that's going to be my first project for the Colors of Fall Knit Along. But then, because I was so disappointed about not being able to do the early morning, but I still wanted to do it, I started looking through, really properly reading other people's notes on their projects. And a few people had said that they thought that the sizing was quite large. It is meant to be an oversized sweater, but they said that they would have been happier if they had sized down. So the small size only needs 1,200 meters. So I would still be just over 100 meters short with the yarn that I have. But I was thinking, well, that helps. That goes a long way towards making this a possibility for me again. But then the other comment that I saw a lot of people saying was that it's quite long. And really, if you look at the project page, the pattern page, it is long, but I always just sort of like attributed that to it being like a really baggy, oversized sweater. I never really thought about it in like the finished thing. But a lot of people said that they shortened the body and the sleeves. And because I am a short person, and I usually do that anyway when I make sweaters for myself, then it's kind of a no-brainer that, well, of course, in this pattern, surely I will like do that as well. If other people have been saying that, then I definitely need to do it. And I probably even need to do it at a much bigger degree than they are, making assumptions about their body types. So surely with all of that, with going down a size and with shortening the body and shortening the sleeves, I should actually be able to the cockatoos have come. I should be able to actually make the sweater. So anyway, that is my heart full of craft. I am so grateful for people who put really detailed project notes on their project pages on Ravelry and describe, you know, the modifications that they've had to do and things that they've liked and changed and what have you about patterns, because it really is so helpful. And yeah, so I am really grateful for that. And that really is truly all that I have to share in this episode. If you're still here, thank you so much for your patience with me today and just still hanging out with me. I feel like I should say at the end of every Heartful of Craft that I am grateful for you guys, because I very much am always grateful that anyone is watching my videos. I really don't expect anyone to, so it's always nice when I see or hear or whatever that people are. So thank you so much for watching. And I expect I will see you in another fortnight. Fare thee well.